Deep within the pine forests of Northern California lies a house with a disturbing history. A house with a fairly unsuspecting facade, yet it holds an insidious past. A house that stands on an easily overlooked side street. Wilderness Way. A fitting name, considering it's hidden far into the woods that surrounds the nearest town. Fairly modest little mountain town, known as Placerville. I came to learn of this house through a random conversation with a local neighbor. He claimed that the people around here call it the murder house. The name was pretty cliche, however it was enough to grab anyone's attention. By the time my neighbor and I had finished our conversation, I needed to learn more. Spent that night doing my own research. Late one night, in the silent forest lay the home of James and Colleen Batten, a married couple who, like many in the area, had themselves a secluded section of the woods. This happened to be Colleen's second marriage, and it was going to go out with a bang. Police soon arrive at the scene. They question Colleen, but she is unable to give the cops a clear answer as to what happened inside their home. They step inside and begin searching the house for clues. When they make it to the bedroom, they find the body of James Batten laying on the bed. He had been shot twice with a shotgun. Lying beside him was a pistol, which had not been fired. The pistol was suspicious, and police seemed to think it may have been placed after the murder. Colleen tried explaining that she had this sort of gray fog and couldn't remember much of what had happened. A psychiatrist officially examined her and determined she had psychogenic amnesia, a condition that causes memory loss during extremely traumatic experiences. After some time, Colleen was able to explain herself. She had claimed the murder was in self-defense from her sexually abusive husband. She even claimed he had tried harassing her daughter that she had from her first marriage. In 1986, a court found Colleen not guilty due to self-defense. She was finally able to escape her abuser and move on from the horrific events which plagued her life. Or at least that's what she claimed. I thought I had made it to the end of this case. However, I was dead wrong. Before diving deeper into this case, I decided that I wanted to learn more about what the locals had to say about Colleen. I uploaded a quick post on Nextdoor. For those that don't know, Nextdoor is an app that allows you to make posts that are shared only to neighbors and people of your community. What I learned painted a pretty clear picture. I soon received a comment from a longtime local pest control technician. I serviced the house on Wilderness many times for pest control. I once told her about a leaky pipe under the house in the sub area. She crawled under, through the dirt, and fixed it herself. She was pretty self-sufficient. I soon received another message from a local resident. I knew Colleen and her husband from working in the surveying field, and they were doing some unscrupulous stuff. Colleen was my competition for a CAD job with the county. There was a joke going around the office for me to be careful and not get shot by her. I knew to stay away. It seems that many in this small town community kept their distance from Colleen following the suspicious death of her second husband. However, I discovered that one man would look past the fears of others and be blinded by love. That man was Bob Harris. Bob was loved in the community. He worked for the Forest Service, volunteered at the sheriff's office, and even spared some time to coach the Little League. Bob and Colleen had met in middle school and actually dated for a brief time. They decided to reconnect again and began the relationship soon after the murder. Bob's family warned him to be careful with her, but he told them that she had a hard life and just got mixed up in a bad situation. He assured them that it was all in the past. In 1990, they were officially married. Bob soon moved into that tucked-away house down the shadowing side street of Wilderness Way. In fact, Bob even shared the same bedroom where Colleen had shot James Batten. The marriage seemed to be going fairly well for a while. They divorced briefly in 2001, but that was only so that Colleen could receive benefits from the death of her previous husband. Some time had passed since the murder, and they seemed to be known more as your average grandma and grandpa elderly couple. Eventually, Bob expressed to his family that he had been unhappy with his marriage. However, he seemed to keep his feelings from his wife for a while and focused on his volunteer work. Bob was passionate about conserving the beauty of the nearby Lake Tahoe and even dedicated his time to a conservationist project between Lake Tahoe and a similar deep blue lake called Lake Baikal, all the way in eastern Siberia. This gave Bob the opportunity to travel to Mongolia to visit the Tahoe Baikal Institute. Colleen sensed that their relationship was having problems and became exceedingly suspicious of Bob while he was away on his trip. She spent hours trying to hack into his computer, and when she did, her suspicions were correct. She discovered several love messages that Bob had sent to another woman in Mongolia. Upon Bob's return home from the trip, he was immediately kicked out and forced to move into his cabin nearby Lake Tahoe. After some time, Colleen convinced Bob to move back in with her so that he could help assist her during the recovery of her hip replacement surgery. She was really hoping that this would be a good healing opportunity and would convince Bob to stay with her and continue their marriage together. Although, months went by and nothing had changed much, Bob still remained very unclear on how he wanted to address the future of their relationship. During Christmas 2012, Bob and Colleen drove down south to be with Bob's daughter in Los Angeles. During this trip, Colleen became extremely frustrated with Bob. He showed an obvious lack of affection toward her, and if that wasn't upsetting enough, she also found a receipt for a necklace that Bob had purchased and given to his affair partner in Mongolia. Colleen began to grow a deep resentment toward Bob. Despite her anger, Colleen still held hope for their relationship, but Bob still hadn't discussed his plans for the future of their marriage. Bob did, however, inform her that he would be moving back into his cabin sometime soon after the new year. Colleen knew the marriage was falling apart, and she wasn't going to accept it. Bob's daughter receives a call from Colleen. She's calling to confide in her. She tells her that Bob just got off the phone with his lover and still won't talk about their marriage. They end their call, and Colleen is left with the eerie silence of their secluded home, left to reflect on her troubled marriage. Once again, she decides to paint the bedroom walls of her house with blood. A 911 operator receives a call from Colleen's attorney, claiming that his client has confessed to a dead body at the end of Wilderness Way. Police arrive on scene just like they had almost 30 years ago. They step inside the house and they are immediately hit with deja vu. In the bedroom, under a blanket, they found Bob Harris's body laying on the bed, and his face had been completely blown off. Blood, brain, and bone covered the room. The cops searched around and it appeared that there was no sign of a struggle. They also found a 12-gauge shotgun lying right next to Bob. The gun was oddly clean. They checked it for fingerprints and found nothing. It had also been obvious that the headboard and ceiling attempted to be cleaned. They immediately got Colleen into an interrogation room to further figure out what had happened the previous night. She explained to police that she had absolutely no memory of the night of the murder, or even of the entire day. She compared her memory to the same gray fog she had during the last murder of James Batten. Police were not convinced and even noticed a red abrasion on her finger and a bruise on her chest. The police believed that these marks could be explained by the type of shotgun she used in the murder. The shotgun found at the house had a pistol grip, meaning it had little support and would be hard to control the kickback when firing. The police were also able to quickly disprove her attempt at claiming an altered mental state. They found out that Colleen had driven to her son's house in San Francisco following the murder. Police found that she had stashed Bob's pistol, some of his collector's coins, and Bob's cell phone. The most incriminating piece of evidence found was a call that Colleen had made to AAA after her car happened to break down on the side of the freeway. The cops got a hold of the recorded call and listened carefully. As she told the AAA operator her situation, it was clear that Colleen was cognizant of her surroundings and quite aware of what was happening. Nothing like someone with a foggy mind. Police believed they had plenty of evidence to begin a trial. Miraculously, Colleen was finally able to remember some of what had happened during the night of January 5th. She claimed that there was some sort of struggle over the shotgun, which ultimately led to the accidental discharge of the weapon, killing Bob. This time, she wouldn't get away so easily, and she was sentenced to life in prison. In 2022, Colleen died in prison. Despite her conviction, she always maintained her innocence. After uncovering this case, I was seriously disturbed. What stuck out to me was not just the actions of Colleen, but the location of the crime scene as well. As a Placerville resident myself, I can't help but notice how the incredible abundance of evergreen trees in the area have this gloomy way of concealing what's hidden inside. Miles upon miles of thick forest trees with houses far and few between. These shadowing beasts stop anyone from seeing what nefarious acts your neighbors may or may not be up to. I think the most disturbing part of these murders is not just how unsettling this forested area looks, but how the hidden nature of Colleen's home almost enticed her to commit these murders through the comfort of its definite privacy. That little house posed at the end of Wilderness Way will always hold its history. It stands as a constant reminder that you may never know what lurks in the forest. Even the comforting facade of a warm family home may have dangers hidden inside its walls.